Good evening and welcome to the 2023 Annual People's Caucus Nominating Meeting. Please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask our former chair, Aaron Stern, to lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Aaron Spring, and it is my honor and pleasure to serve as the executive chair for this year's cycle. I want to thank everybody for coming to this meeting, both in person. Can you just mute the people on Zoom, please? Thank you. Thank you to everybody who was here in person. Thank you to everybody who was here on Zoom to keep our democracy and constitutional republic going in a nonpartisan manner. We really appreciate this. A few thank yous I just want to throw out there as well. Thank you to Shane, who's our videographer. He came an hour and a half early and doing a lot of labor, so thank you for everything he's done. Thank you to my e-board, Susan Cabral, Kim Izzarelli, Kathy Bhattacharya, Ken Dengler, and Clarissa Gosha. We appreciate all the hard work they're doing. And thank you to the people of Briarcliff for coming out and again for continuing this tradition. We see how ugly politics has gotten nowadays. And in our beautiful village, we're keeping it civil, we're keeping it nonpartisan, and we are progressing morally, politically, economically, socially, in any way, shape, and form that we can. So thank you for that. I want to start, well, I guess I did just start with the chairman's remarks. I want to go right into the report of the treasurer to keep our agenda fast moving in a timely manner. So treasurer's report, please.
Okay. Our budget for this year is $4,600. I'm giving everything in round numbers. And we started with $3,500 in the bank. Thus far, we've received contributions of $150, spent money on Community Day, the post office, Zoom. So far this year, we've spent $500. And so the balance in the bank is $3,200, which may or may not be sufficient for this election cycle, depending on who's running, I guess.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Motion by Keith Austin, seconded by Aaron Stern. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. I'd like to now move to the approval of minutes from the last year's meeting, and I'll ask Kim Izzarelli to take the mic on this one. Or you don't actually have to come up here.
No, can we dispense with the readings of the minutes?
You have to make a motion.
Oh, sorry. I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes from the last meeting.
The motion is there. Is there a second to suspend the reading? Seconded by Aaron Stern. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Now I want to move into our official nomination process. We're going to start with the office of mayor, which is a 2-year term. And I'm now going to open the nominations for mayor for the village of Briarcliff Manor.
Hi, my name is Bradley Pencil. I live at 33 Sleepy Hollow Road. It's my honor to stand up here tonight and nominate my good friend Steve Vessio to serve as mayor.
Let the record reflect the nominator and his address, please. Is there a second?
Phil Vessio, 144 Briarcliff Road, and I second the motion.
Let the record reflect the seconder and the quote-unquote seconder and their address as well. Are there any other nominations for mayor? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, I'm going to close the nomination for mayor, and I'm going to invite the nominator up for a 3-minute speech to nominate Mr. Vessio. Kathy, you're on the clock.
Yeah. All right. With that, thank you for the time. It's, as I said before, it's really an honor to stand up here today and nominate Steve for mayor. There are a lot of adjectives I could use to describe Steve and reasons why I think he's such a good leader for our community. He's honest, he's straight up, he's diligent, he's a tireless worker, he's disciplined and detail oriented, he's practical, he's a problem solver. I think he has every quality that we want in the leader of our community. But for me, the one quality of Steve's that really stands out above everything else is his selfless commitment to the community. He's selfless and dedicated to the village to a degree that sometimes, frankly, I have a hard time even comprehending. And his dedication to the village and really to all of us didn't begin when he became mayor. For Steve, it's been a lifelong commitment. Before becoming mayor, he served as a volunteer firefighter for the village. And Steve's too humble to boast or take credit for things like this, but I know from talking with others, there were several occasions where Steve put his own neck on the line, really to save lives of people in the village and help other people in the village. In addition to stepping into dangerous situations and helping to put out fires, there was the time he climbed a 40-foot ladder and carried to rescue a young girl who was in grave danger, and carried her down without a harness or safety supports, and really put his life on the line to save a young child. And there was the time he was the first responder to a car accident in a blizzard on Route 9. Got out of the car on an icy road, gave CPR to a motorist, and spent the night helping direct traffic to make sure nobody else got injured. There are also little things I see Steve do every day that really add up and make a huge difference. Steve and I walk our dogs together a few times a week, and while I'm using that time to unwind and clear my head, Steve's scanning the terrain like a hawk looking for a squirrel or something. He's picking up gum wrappers, empty cans. He's making phone calls to DPW to come fix a pothole in the road or fix a crack in the sidewalk. And I think all these little things that Steve does every day and the way he lives his life really add up and show the quality of a leader that we have here in the village. Steve's never been paid a dime for any of these things he does, and he's not in it for personal gain. He does it because he cares about the community, and he has the drive to put in the sacrifices to make it a better place for all of us. I'm up. I gotta stop. Yeah, if I could just summarize. Look, the one thing I can tell you with certainty, actually two things. One is that behind every decision Steve makes, he's going to put in the work to understand every issue, every angle, and every perspective before he acts. And most certainly, second and most importantly to me, every act unquestionably that Steve takes as mayor will be about what he believes is in the best interest of the village and the best interests of all of us. So I feel fortunate to call Steve my friend. I think we're all fortunate to have him as a member of our community and fortunate to have him lead us. So for all these reasons and for lots of others that I know I'm out of time that I can't get into tonight, I cannot think of a better person to lead our village than Steve Vesio.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I want to invite up Steve Vesio for a 5-minute speech to accept the nomination.
Good evening, everyone. For those who haven't met me yet, my name is Steve Vesio, and I've been fortunate enough to be your mayor for the past 4 years. It's really been an honor and a privilege. I've learned a lot, not only about our village, but about myself as a person. And I hope we've left our mark on this village in a positive way, not only for today and for tomorrow, for the long-term success. I'd like to thank the caucus for this 100-year-old nonpartisan tradition. It's a critical reason why Briarcliff is so unique and also so successful. I'd also like to thank Brad, not only for his nomination, but for his friendship. It's an intense responsibility in those couple of stories that he mentioned, and that level of responsibility I do carry to the position of mayor. I'd like to thank my father, Bill, for his seconding on my third term as mayor. Coming from a former 5-term mayor, it certainly means a lot, and it means I must be doing a few things up to his justifiably high standards. He's always been there for sage advice and wisdom, and of course to tell me how we could have done things even better. Seriously though, I do appreciate all you've done for our village and continue to do. Finally, and most importantly to my family, my wife Jessica, my daughters Ariana and Bianca, always willing to listen to village issues, always willing to make one quick stop on the way home to take care of something village related. It's time not only physically away from them, but also mentally when we're on phone calls and Zoom handling village business. Our village founder, Walter Law, a man of many traits and talents, famously said, "Only the best is good enough for Briarcliff." And that carries through to today. We have many volunteers on our boards, from the planning board to the zoning board, the fire department, environmental sustainability, horticultural. They're all incredibly dedicated and talented individuals. That's an asset we need to continue to tap into. And while we've done a lot over the past 2 terms, there's much more work to be done. As you may or may not be aware, the village recently acquired 1050 Pleasantville Road, the former Wells Fargo building, which will allow the residents to have a direct impact and control of the destiny of our downtown. It will also solve a long-term space needs in our village hall building, where we can provide new space for several departments which have outgrown their needs, specifically the police and the court. Downtown will have some accessible safety improvements in the next couple years, in part thanks to a New York State grant of $3 million+, which will allow for the construction of wider ADA-compliant sidewalks, elimination of tripping hazards, and also adding sidewalks where none exist. We'll be adding raised crosswalks to slow down traffic and reduce the number of pedestrian strikes and vehicular traffic accidents in our downtown. It's critical this project is managed in an effective way to minimize negative impacts. Recently completed also was the reconstruction of Tuttle Road, solving a 50-year drainage issue, revitalizing the sidewalks that existed there, and also adding a section of sidewalk on Elm that previously did not exist. Now those residents can walk to downtown on a sidewalk. Also connecting to the downtown is a new connection to the North County Trailway, which is currently underway and should be completed this spring. It will bring more money to our downtown, was partly financed with a grant, and yet another recreational asset for our great village. It's critical that we balance our infrastructure needs with our financial resources, however. Similar to a house, you can't let ongoing maintenance just go on forever and ignore it, otherwise you'll end up with a big emergency bill. Things always cost more to do later. New York State is in a similar position with Route 9A, 90 years and no major upgrades. However, that $3 million New York State funded study will begin next month. It will chart the future of the roadway for the next 50 years.
1 minute.
Sure. I will ensure the village has a strong voice in this design to minimize negative impacts and enhance positive aspects. I'm proud of the Board of Trustees and all of our work. I'm proud of all of our volunteers, and I'm proud of our staff, who is incredibly dedicated, and I am honored to be serving with them. I'd be fortunate, privileged, and honored to be elected your mayor for a 3rd term, and I pledge that if elected, I will work hard every day to improve our village and represent your best interests. I will listen to input and consider all viewpoints before making a decision, and will always operate in an open and transparent manner. I was always taught growing up, not only from my father, but from my grandfather, that you leave things better than the way you were found them. And that's what we've done here in Briarcliff. We've got an incredible village, and it's our obligation to our children to leave it better than we found it. That's what we've done over the past 4 years, and that's what I plan to do over the next 2 if I'm reelected your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vesio. I now would like to open up the nominations for the candidate of village trustee. There are 2 positions for village trustee open this year for a 2-year term. I now want to open up the nominations to the public.
Keith Austin, and I'd like to nominate Peter Chesky.
Your address, sir.
55 Baltimore Place.
Thank you. Let the record reflect the nominator and the address, please. Is there a second?
Susan Chatsky, 206 Pine Road.
Let the record reflect the seconder and the address as well. Other nominations for village trustee?
I'm Robert Mayer. I live at 114 River Road, and I nominate Ned Midgley for the position of trustee.
Please let the record reflect the name of the nominator and the address. Is there a second?
Russell Midgley, 1 Hope Place.
Please let the record reflect the seconder and the address of the seconder. Are there any other nominations for village trustee? Going once? Going twice? I now move to close the nominations for village trustee. I would first like to invite up the nominator for Mr. Peter Chatsky. You're going to have 3 minutes, and we'll give you a 1-minute warning. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to be able to nominate Peter for a third term as village trustee. I first met Peter exactly to the day 20 years ago in this venue. And for those of you who remember, the circumstances were somewhat different. 2 weeks from tonight at the voting meeting, Peter managed to defeat me in my quest to be renominated for mayor. So this was not exactly an auspicious start. But over the following years, I've spent a lot of time watching what happens in the village, how different boards have reacted to different circumstances, and I am just tremendously impressed by the job that this administration, which includes Peter, have done since their election 4 years ago. Now, there are a lot of things that make an effective board. One of them is board dynamics and cooperation and teamwork, but the other are the traits that the individual board members bring to the table. Now, Peter can speak to the accomplishments of the board far more eloquently than I, but I would say on personal characteristics, the thing that's impressed me about Peter, as I've come to know him a lot better, are, first of all, there's a real willingness to listen, to absorb input, to listen to people, to think about things thoroughly. He makes himself available almost to a fault to the community. He trolls his way through social media, which I know nothing about, having no grandchildren. But he spends his time out there communicating, clarifying issues, working with the public. Like Peter is not only a very bright guy, he's maybe the hardest working trustee I've ever seen in my life. His diligence is phenomenal, but he always thinks it through, very, very thoughtfully, and so on. So I'm very pleased.
1 minute, Mr. Austin.
Yep, I'm very pleased to place a nomination my friend Peter Chatsky.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you, Mr. Austin. I now would like to invite up Mr. Chatsky for a 5-minute speech.
I'm guessing. Not sure why you cut him off. I thought you were doing a good job.
Sorry.
I'd like to point out first I'm wearing a tie tonight, specifically to honor Mr. Austin, who told me it was one of my faults. Constantly working on improving myself. Thank you, Keith. Amazingly, as you alluded to 2 decades ago, when I ran for your mayoral seat, you were even then the distinguished, experienced elder statesman of the village. You have impressive staying power. When I grow up, I would like to be just like you. Thank you to members of the caucus committee for hosting tonight's nomination. I am thrilled to see Aaron Spring and all of the new faces of the caucus executive committee who help keep our nonpartisan tradition alive and healthy in our village. I would also like to thank my wife, Susan, for taking care of everything in my life while I get to focus on the village. For those who moved to the village only recently, I am Peter Chatsky. I've served the last 4 years as a trustee and as your deputy mayor. It's been a successful and rewarding experience serving with Steve and Ned, as well as with Kevin and Rhea, and previously with Sabina and Cesar. My resume includes an MBA in finance, more than 35 years of executive experience with a software firm that I founded. That background has given me skills to manage organizations, assess budgets, set priorities, build a vision for long-term success, and help shepherd teams of people with individual talents working toward common goals. As an undergrad, so long ago, I studied psychology and creative writing. Those majors have proven to be surprisingly useful over the last 4 years. As many of you know, I spend a lot of time writing in my current role. I've led the drafting of more than 50 local laws that this board has enacted since Steve, Ned, and I first took office. If you're keeping score at home, that translates to more than 335 pages of text. Admittedly, I can be verbose. But one of my primary goals on the board has been to bolster transparency and communication throughout the village. I've done so by providing frequent updates on village matters through Facebook, through email, and at times through the Friday newsletter, always in a friendly, open manner. The current board functions extremely well together. I'm thrilled that the 5 of us and village staff have been so adept at quickly responding and handling the roughly gazillion unplanned issues that pop up each day. But I'm most proud, over my last 4 years on the board, of the proactive views we've taken as policymakers for the village and the transformational vision we have pursued that will give long-term impact to the success of Briarcliff Manor. The board has revamped the professional village staff. We hired Josh Ringel as our excellent village manager, creating a village prosecutor position, replacing the treasurer, the rec superintendent, the police chief, the village engineer. We've brought on new village council, financial advisors, strong outside auditors, all to ensure the village operates on solid legal and financial ground. And we now have industry experts on call for specialty land use, utility, and property tax matters that pop up from time to time. We've added resident committees focused on sustainability and environmental issues and expanded our rec committee. These highly qualified people will continue to serve the village well long after members of the current board leave office. Ongoing review of local laws, updated land use policies, strategic land acquisition, revitalization of our business district, improvements to park and recreation, encouragement of new commercial use, strengthened environmental protections, tough new regulations of utility work and road restoration. I'm going to stop now that you're bored. These are some of the many long-range investments that will impact and improve our village for decades to come. I'll close by repeating our mantra from 4 years ago, keeping with the theme that Steve started minutes ago. Trustees should be guided by the principle, we each must leave the village in even better shape than we found it. I look forward to continuing the effort to do just that, and I thank all of you for your continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Chatsky. I'd now like to invite Mr. Mayor up to give a 3-minute speech to nominate Mr. Midgley.
Aaron. As I said, my name is Robert Mayer. My wife and I have been residents of the village for just under a gazillion years. And I was also a member of the Board of Trustees of the village for several years under the previous Vesio administration. We like to refer to that as the real Vesio administration. He's not even laughing. He agrees with it. As I said, I'm here to nominate Ned Midgley for another term as village trustee. Ned is a good friend and neighbor. He is in his second term as a trustee, and his willingness to extend it to a third term is actually good news for the village indeed. As with any village, but particularly so with Briarcliff, land issues continue to dominate concerns among residents more than any other single issue. Ned's expertise in real estate has been of increasing help to the Board of Trustees over the last 4 years, and there is every reason to expect his continued counsel in this regard. He's also brought a wealth of experience to the board in his knowledge of finance, on which I'm sure the board will continue to rely. Ned has a keen interest in nature, being my go-to guy for information on trails, various tree species, and questions on natural resources, and believe it or not, including rocks. Guy knows his rocks. I trust the residents of the village will agree with my assessment of Ned's personal qualities and professional experience and elect him to a third term. I do want to take a second, however, to thank the executive committee of the People's Caucus for keeping a great process going in this village. I think we're the envy of every village and municipality in the area. So thank you very much for your hard work on that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I now invite Mr. Midgley up for a 5-minute speech.
Thanks, everyone. I just put together a couple of notes here, over the last couple of days, and I want to thank the caucus for being here and doing what you do. This nonpartisan election system that we have in Briarcliff is probably one of the few reasons I'm allowed to run for office. So it's a beautiful thing to have. I want to thank my son for seconding my nomination, and my mom for being here to see it as well, and my son's friend Amanda for attending tonight as well. 4 years ago, about this same time, I guess at the time we had some of the first questions about the village, Mrs. Austin had a question for us, and she said, "Are you going to do something about Scarborough Park?" Did we do that? Did we do a nice job? Yep. Wonderful. I'm glad we heard it because it's the first chance I've had to ask you about it. So, but that was 4 years ago. And I think it was one of the first things that we accomplished. One of the things about it that was done with our own DPW. Steve had a wonderful hand in that, and he showed up the first day that the stones arrived, turned one truck around, sent it back, and got the right stone for it. We saved several $100,000 on doing it that way, with DPW doing it versus going out and contracting the whole thing. And we had a village resident, and I apologize, I'm forgetting her name, Krista Mastacola, who volunteered and did all of the work for us on that project as a volunteer in terms of the Army Corps of Engineers and all that, and all of those, that whole approval process. And why I bring that up, I think it's really important, is that's how this team, Peter, Steve, and I, and as well as Kevin and now Rhea, have approached solving problems in the village. We get volunteers, we try and get the most bang for the buck that we can, and I think I think you see it in sort of all our decision making and how we're trying to get things done. You've heard from Steve and Peter about some of the things we accomplished. I mean, one of the most important things we accomplished this year was hiring a new village manager. I think we really got a good one. And that, we interviewed numerous people for the position, and that's a hard thing to do, to get right. And I think we got it right. And the fact is, he's young, and I think we have a lot of years in front of us that he'll be able to help us. I got involved, the story's sort of funny, in village issues, primarily because of NIMBY. There was a little building in my backyard that, I wanted to have some influence into what it became. And I think we have a wonderful use there now. And, I really want to thank Bob Mayer for nominating me, and I do accept his nomination. And what was really funny, as I've told people over the years, I wasn't particularly active in village politics until 4 years ago. And I like to say that Bob Mayer voluntold me to run for office. And so with that, I'd like to thank everyone who's supporting me and look forward to another term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Midgley. I now move into a nomination for the Caucus Executive Committee for the term starting on April 1st, 2023, running for a year. The current slate is myself, Aaron Spring, Executive Chair, Kathy Bhattacharya, Vice Chair, Kim Mizzarilli, Secretary, Susan Cabral, Treasurer, Ken Dengler, Member at Large, and Clarissa Gyosha, Member at Large. Do we have anyone to nominate us? Please state your name. Thank you. Please record for the record the nominator and the address. And the seconder, please. Please note the seconder and the address. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. We have other business, which I'm going to start with, and then we can move into the caucus. First, we have a Meet the Candidates night next Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, in this room at 7:30 p.m. We will not have a special voting meeting on January 25th because neither mayor position nor the trustee positions are contested. So we will not have a special voting meeting. Our next step, or our next real legwork, will be collecting signatures to get our slate on the ballot. This is going to be a community effort. We are going to need all hands on deck as we want to collect close to 200 signatures, double the amount needed so that we can make sure that our candidates stand strong against any possible challenges. So if you'd like to volunteer to help get us signatures, please reach out to us at peoplescaucus@gmail.com or reach out to me directly at 914-602-6629, and we will get you prepared with the literature and walking list that's needed, or petitions and walking lists that are needed. So we'd really appreciate, if 10 people get 10 or 20 people get 10 signatures, we're there. So that's really the next step that we have to take after this, or after the Meet the Candidates night, will be getting our candidates on the ballot. We'll have roughly a 2-week window to do that. Is there other business from members of the caucus? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Seconded. Anybody second, rather? Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention. That's the only unanimous vote you're ever going to get. So, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.